Hello, this is Jerem playing Oxygen Not Included. This is my Radioactive Ocean Asteroid playthrough. And I have the main goal of this episode to get the Desolands. So notice that I built a pipe there to provide oxygen inside this spacecraft. That's set up with the Trailblazer and something that can drop off material. It's going to be refined metal that's going to be filled with. In the last episode, I started this polluted water oxygen system, so just starting to fill these liquid reservoirs with polluted water. Once they're filled up and destroy them, it's going to make a polluted water bottle that is going to emit polluted oxygen. This is the inside of the first rocket that I'm going to construct in this playthrough. So we're just going to do some mesh tiles here. I'm going to build some wiring. And this is going to be set up for 2 dupes to go to the Desolands. So snaking a pipe through just to hold a little bit of excess oxygen in the pipe as it starts to deliver it there on the top left. And that's going to start to push in some oxygen. It's going to have a place for the dupes to use the washroom while they're there. I'm going to do the same thing with the water pipes. That's just going to be snaked through it just about as much as possible, going into the input of that lavatory. And the output will just fly out in space. So look out, whoever is flying around us. So that is going to provide a little bit of oxygen in those pipes, but not enough. So I'm going to turn a little bit of algae into oxygen once the oxygen is out in the pipes. Storage for food, storage for a bin. We're going to put different materials inside here. I discovered this polluted water geyser. It's actually outputting cold polluted water, which is really nice, minus 10 degrees, I believe. So I'm going to put a pump in there, so when the polluted water in the bottom is used everything up, I'm still going to be getting some excess polluted water from over here, and that'll completely be replaced with that geyser over time. So that's a nice thing. Nice thing about the cold polluted water too is it doesn't have any food poisoning. So I'm just going to construct some beds and put it such that they won't be near the doors, because the doors can have shine bugs, and that light will keep the dupes up, causing a little bit of stress in that. So avoid that from happening. In the future, I'm going to want some enriched uranium. A good source for that is these little beta beehives. They actually produce enriched uranium at a more efficient rate than you can with machinery. So start the process. I'm going to actually dig out that critter plant. I don't want any critters go missing because that plant is there. And I'll dig out a path towards the left and right of these beehives, and I'll mark the beehives as getting mining done on enriched uranium that's inside there. I want to stop burning algae in the other asteroid, the inverted one, so I'm going to actually build a pipe to send oxygen to that world. So instead of using algae for that, I can use algae for space missions in future points. Once I start sending that oxygen over here, I'll need to actually build pipes to send it from here to have this distributed at various different points in my base. And I'll just have a couple gas vents. Start with one here in the very center and have a couple other points around the base, just so I can get that oxygen all over this spot so my dupes can breathe while they're visiting this asteroid. It is time to give out some skills. So carrying skills is going to be the general one. I'm going to start farming for work on another critter rancher, improve building over here. Farming, I'll work towards critter rancher. Again, need lots of those pips attended to. Let's see, engineer, electrical engineering, I think. I'll do some that work with that in the future. Probably carrying, generally that's the thing that I go with. Over here, let's do construction. So they're just general round skills when they're not doing science. And for the final one over here, let's take hard digging so they can improve their digging. So now that I've achieved the carnivore achievement, I don't need to consume meat in a certain amount of time. So I'm going to actually grow some mealwood over on the inverted world, so I don't have to manually bring over barbecue meat every so often. As I destroy these liquid vents, I need to rebuild them so that I can fill up more and more water bottles. This time I'm going to offset them from the position they were, so I'll get water bottles on every tile. No longer using the power lines down in this section here. I'm going to get rid of some of that, so just destroy that. And let's look at the geyser down here. This is slowly outputting brine, and cold brine, so that's having a cooling effect on that water that has taken quite a bit of heat in the past due to the metal refineries. Now I'm just going to be constructing this such that there's a room of 4 tiles high. That's why I'm destroying this area here. And I'll be able to engineer. You would think that they know how to not get themselves stuck in a tile, but anyway, that's just what happens. And I can see I'm going to have to construct this such that my nature reserve is going to be intact. I'm just drawing this liquid out of that pipe so I can destroy it. And that'll just go down here. And then I'll be able to get this room back. And then I can use this room for some normal based stuff. So what I'm going to do is actually build a research station and a water drop-off point, because the research station requires water. It would be very convenient if I had a water pitch right next to it with water that's being supplied in the water line. So that's going to be accessible right here with water pitch and a place to drop off that water. And let's see, just get rid of some of this excess pipes that are around the side. And that will mean that the dupes that go fetch some water and then go to the research station don't have to go as far. And I'll just put some light so whoever is doing the research has access to that. And I'm going to even put, let's see, I'm also going to need power as well as closing off, as I mentioned, the nature reserve. So I'll put that at this point here and get this room ready. Now that this room is just about complete, just have to get that water pitch and liquid reservoir in there. I'm going to put back the skill scrubber just in case I ever need it in the future. I'm going to also have light. Whoever is losing their skills or even using the water pitch will have access to light as they're doing that, and that's going to need some power. So that is going to allow me to have another few rooms as a bonus. Oh, engineering again, seriously. What is it? Is it certain dupes that do this, that just have like some sort of unknown skill that says, I like to put myself in a block? Actually, now that I've got the skill scrubber, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to choose 2 dupes that I'm going to send in space to remove all their skills, because they're going to be going to another asteroid that doesn't have much in terms of morale boosters. I want their skill level to be very low so they don't get stressed out when they go to a new asteroid. Okay, I didn't notice this until now, but I've got some gold magma on this asteroid, which is only due to this special little thing here that you don't typically get. So normally you have to go somewhere else to get your first pieces of gold magma on this asteroid, but I'm definitely going to be putting some of that on my rocket so it can be used in the Desolands. So Engineer has had their skills removed. So what I'm going to do now is choose another dupe. And I'm going to choose Miner. These are 2 dupes that have been here since the beginning. They're going to have a lot of skill, naturally. And that's going to allow them to do do things a little bit faster when they get to these new asteroids. That's why I'm choosing them as opposed to some of the newer dupes that aren't as skilled. Okay, before I take off, I'm going to want lots of material here. I'll want algae, glass, gold magma since I've got it, though normally that's not something that I would get. I want a little bit of copper as well. I'm going to want a little bit of food for travel. And I would like ceramic, though because I don't have enough clay at the moment, I've only just put a polluted water oxygen system. I might send ceramic over on a future mission. But basically I want all this stuff. The other thing is I want some mealwood brought onto the ship, just in case I get over there and want to grow some and don't have the ability for that. The other thing that I want to bring over is 3 wheezy warts for radiation production. So while dupes are here, I'll get them to dig out a path towards 3 of those wheezy warts and have them teleport over so they can be loaded onto the rocket for travel. Another thing that I want to bring over is some pip eggs, because ultimately I want to have some pips over there. They're going to have to plant some of those wheezy warts, but I might be able to actually use them for planting other things. So just having the pips in that world is going to be beneficial. So I'll also bring over some wheezy warts once they're teleported to this world. And just realize that I have not set up this oxygen line appropriately because it's putting some carbon dioxide and hydrogen out to that other asteroid. So what I want to do instead is have it filtered for oxygen and then put that filtered pure oxygen down so that the little excess hydrogen doesn't accumulate in the other asteroid. Okay, did not realize how many friggin' pip eggs I have. That's an awesome thing, especially for food production on this world. But I did not intend to have an insane number of pip eggs. In fact, I just wanted 3 or 4. So what I'm going to have to do is get my dupes to drop not all, but almost all of those pip eggs back at this point here so I can maintain my food production of barbecue meat here. And just bring, let's say, 3 or 4 pip eggs with me on this mission. So, yeah, actually quite happy about this. Did not realize that I had that many pip eggs. And probably that's an indication that I may not need to use the incubator anymore. Because if I've got enough natural eggs, or enough eggs to hatch naturally, slowly over time, then I can just skip the whole incubation process, which would be amazing because it's a lot of manual work for me. Starting to get very low on the water reserves, 2 pumps in there. But I do have water in the area. So what I'm doing here, I'm building some tiles that's going to push the excess water there that's up, so it's going to make its way towards the pump. And I'll get my dupes to dig on the far right side with the water source there. Might as well just dig out some algae. I'm going to need the algae for space travel, because that's going to be my source of oxygen for the dupes that are going to be doing some space travel. Still don't have a solution to deal with the polluted water that comes from the washroom. So I'm digging out an area on the left side of the washroom, and this is where I'm going to treat that polluted water, specifically removing the food poisoning. Time to level up my dupes. Cook here. I'm going to do super digging, digger. Actually, critter ranching is going to be the priority on the homeworld. Engineer just will have piloting since they're going to be traveling. Miner is going to do digging. Scientists carrying, since I can't think of what else to do. I'm not going to give the other dupes in the other world any skills because I'm worried about them being stressed. I'm going to get scientists to analyze the 2 geysers there. They're in oxygen area. Well, this is polluted oxygen area. But that's going to give me some data banks that I'll need later on. Here I'm just installing the tiling around the system that's going to deal with the polluted water from washrooms. I'm going to want to create a pipe that goes from my water line up to the rocket so I can fill the rocket with water. That's for the lavatory that's in there. Discovered an issue in my polluted water to oxygen system. So the Atmos sensor there is actually in hydrogen area, and that is very low pressure. But that's not what I actually want to be measuring. I probably should remove that hydrogen, but the more important thing is to, in my mind, to get this Atmos sensor down into the oxygen area so that it's correctly measuring the oxygen pressure that's in that room and activating the pumps, which wasn't happening. This is a big moment. The first rocket is going to blast off into space. Okay, so I chose engineer and miner. Engineer is the pilot, and miner had to remove their skills again. They're going to get hard digging. That's going to help them do some digging when they arrive in this new world. We're going towards the Desolands. That's the world that has oil. I'm going to look inside here. I've got food. I've got all the resources that I want to bring. Is water, oxygen in the pipes, algae, particularly for oxygen. Time to blast off. Let's see if I cleared that heat for the solar panels. Definitely did. 0.6 cycles till they get there. And we'll wait and do our deployment. Actually, before I do that, I need to make sure they have power for the oxygen system that's on board. While my rocket is traveling, I'm going to have my dupes work on this system that's going to remove the food poisoning from liquid. So I'm going to have water seep. So I'm going to turn polluted water to regular water, but I'm still going to have food poisoning in it. But if you have liquid stored inside liquid reservoirs that is exposed to chlorine, it removes food poisoning quite easily and quickly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump out all the gas in this area, creating a vacuum, and then once that's the case, push chlorine back in and set up cyberclocks such that the system will work. It's less than a cycle later, and it is now time to deploy the materials. This is refined metal flying down on the asteroid. So my dupe that lands will have access to that. Before they go down, then I'm going to choose miner. They're going to put on a mask. That's going to be important because they need to be able to breathe. And then I'm going to go into the control thing. Well, actually, I'm going to do save just in case something goes wrong because I may want to go back and do it again. but hopefully that won't be the case. So I'm going to select under the Trailblazer miner. They're the one that I want to go down. And I'm going to choose a location that has 2 of these canisters of refined metal around. Over here on the left side looks like a decent spot. So I'll do that. And then we'll watch miner fall down onto the asteroid the first time that I have a dupe on this world. They're going to destroy the Trailblazer. They're going to open up 2 of these payloads. And that will give me enough refined metal to build a landing pad. So the other dupe that's up there in space can actually go down and help out. And also all the resources that are sitting inside that rocket will also be available to the dupes in this world. So I'm going to dig it down. That is because the rocket is going to be higher up. It's got some of those extra modules on it. So I'm going to actually need a ladder going up. The first thing the dupe's going to do is create that landing pad. Then I'll have, as soon as that's created, I'll get the other dupe to land on it. And miner can start to work on those ladders. Okay, so engineer now has a landing pad on this planetoid. They weren't able to land before. Now they can, so this is great. There is the rocket. So now I've got 2 dupes. I've got a rocket. It actually has enough carbon dioxide in the engine to go back. I don't want to go back right now. Actually, maybe instead of building a ladder, I'll just destroy this. That'll save a little bit and reduce the size of the rocket and allow them to go down. Now, it's quite warm on the area that I'm at. That's all right. I see some algae, so the first priority is to get at this algae and create an oxygen system. That's the very first thing I want to do. So I'll need a manual generator. I'll need a oxygen diffuser and a battery, ideally a battery, because I don't want to have the dupes on, or only want to have that operate when the dupes are on the manual generator. Definitely battery. Okay, and I also brought glass with me. Now I won't concentrate on that yet, but eventually I'll be able to put a solar panel up here because of the glass that I brought. I already have the research done. And that's just going to allow my dupes to concentrate on exploring, because that's the first thing I really want to do. Well, I mean, oxygen, food is going to be the priority, but soon as those are set, I want to do some exploring to be able to get at the resources that are on this world. So before I actually start pumping oxygen into this asteroid, over here, might as well take their mask off once they're done, or once the mask is run out anyways. It's just kind of pointless. But before I start creating some oxygen in this world, I've got to create a door to prevent that oxygen from escaping when I do have it. So that's the purpose of this door. The rest of it is just digging out a spot where I can build this oxygen system. Actually, I need to make sure that I close that tile above it. I'm going to have a very small power line, and I'll need the battery at one end, and I'll have the oxygen diffuser at somewhere else, so I'll put that on the left, and then I'll need the manual generator, and that can go right next to the door. And then as soon as that exists, we'll start to get some oxygen in this world. Meanwhile, in the home world, I'm putting the cyber clocks together with NOT gates. I just find it easier to be able to see it, but the idea is I want to be able to control the doors to be open and closed at the right time, such that I can push this liquid through, treating it, and then letting it go when I'm certain that all the polluted or the food poisoning is gone. All right, engineer is getting on the manual generator, and miner's going to throw in some algae, and I'll get the first bit of oxygen that's been produced on this world. And now we can start digging, and I don't have to have the dupes running back and forth between the rocket to be able to breathe, hold their breath, and then get down here and start to do some work. They can actually work in an environment that they can breathe in, which is a huge bonus. You can see miner also, probably because they were in space for a while doing some digging, they have radiation poisoning, but that will go away in time if I have the dupes especially work down here in an area that has covering above their head. So I've got settings to apply on the cyber clocks. The idea here is, don't forget, I've got a NOT gate after this, but I've got a true statement on the first one. That's the first third of the day, and a true statement on the last third of the day. And I've got at least 1% difference between the two. So there's a little bit of a pause that's important there. And with that set up, I'll be able to treat the food poisoning that's in the water. That's going to be going into that zone and push it out for consumption. So now I've got some beds for my dupes to be able to actually sleep. I don't have a food growing area, so I've got to dig down into an area that has a temperate zone, around 20-ish degrees or so. I suspect it'll be somewhere either down or towards the left. So I'm going to keep exploring this area, and I may have to get in some oxygen diffusers further down. Oh, actually, I can see some temperate zone south of this. So if they dig down in that area, I'll be able to set up some food and then some advanced living area. So I think these dupes are in a good position to survive and find some resources.
So I managed to land on the Desolands with 2 dupes and the rocket and tons of supplies. I even have an oxygen system set up and 2 beds for starting things off. What I want to do next, which I'll do in the next episode, is find a place with temperate zones to start growing some mealwood. That's going to be my food source, and set up a basic base. Hope you'll join me in that episode. Like, subscribe, and see you then.